Congratulations on being selected to participate in the Housing Choice Voucher program. This program provides you with housing assistance that allows you to have more choices on where you want to live. To do this, the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, provides money to your housing agency to pay part of the rent to your landlord. Now that you've been determined to be eligible for the program, this video can give you a better idea of how to find a place to live and what to expect during your participation. Your housing representative will also explain the housing agency's rules and answer any questions that you may have. How the voucher program works. The housing agency will work with both you and your landlord. The program can only be successful through a solid partnership between your landlord, the housing agency, and you as the tenant. All three have important responsibilities to one another. Let's go over the housing agency's responsibilities, your responsibilities, and your landlord's. Housing agency's responsibilities. The housing agency has many responsibilities. They are to determine if you are eligible for the program, to issue you a voucher, to explain how the program works, to approve the unit that you select, to make assistance payments to the landlord, and to ensure that families and landlords follow the program rules. Your responsibilities. Your responsibilities are to provide all information that the housing agency requests, to find suitable housing, to take good care of the housing unit, to abide by the landlord's lease, and to comply with the family obligations of the housing program and follow the housing agency's rules. Landlord's responsibilities. The landlord's responsibilities are to find a good renter by checking credit, rental, and criminal history, to follow fair housing laws, to make repairs to the unit, to abide by the contracts between the landlord and the housing agency, to collect your portion of the rent, and to enforce the lease. You will get a briefing packet from the housing agency that contains information about the program, the forms you'll need to complete once you find a suitable place to live, and your responsibilities once you're on the program. Take a moment to look at the briefing packet your agency has given you. Inside the packet, you will find the following: a voucher, the amount of time you have to find a unit, and the housing agency's policy on extensions, how the housing agency calculates what you pay towards your rent and utilities, the areas in which you may look for a unit, an explanation of portability, which is when a family takes their voucher to an agency outside of Grand Forks County and continues to receive assistance, the HUD Tenancy Addendum form, which contains the HUD requirements which must be included in your lease, a request for tenancy approval form, which is the HUD form you need to submit when you find a unit that a landlord is willing to lease, the HUD brochure called A Good Place to Live, which describes things to look for when searching for a unit, the housing agency's policy for determining the bedroom size on the voucher, a copy of the housing discrimination complaint form, a list of owners who may be willing to lease units to families, a list of apartment complexes which may offer handicap-accessible units, the family obligations under the program, which are written on the voucher itself, the reasons for which assistance can be terminated, the housing agency's informal hearing procedures, and the LGBT Equal Access brochure. Please note that if you or anyone in your family has a disability and you require specific assistance in accessing your agency's programs and services, please let the person you are working with at the agency know. They will work with you to ensure that you have equal access to all the programs and opportunities. Your voucher is the most important document in your briefing packet. It is the agreement between you and the housing agency, and it lists all of your responsibilities under the program. The unit size listed on your voucher refers to the maximum number of bedrooms for which you can receive assistance. If you choose a unit with more bedrooms than the unit size on your voucher, the housing agency will only pay the payment standard for the specific unit size on the voucher. For example, if you choose a 4-bedroom unit, but your voucher has a unit size of 3, then you would only receive payment for the 3 bedrooms instead of 4. If you choose a unit with less bedrooms than the unit size on your voucher, the housing agency will only pay the payment standard for the smaller unit size. For example, if you choose a 2-bedroom unit, but your voucher has a unit size of 3, then you would only receive the payment standard amount for 2 bedrooms instead of 3. The expiration date is 60 days from the date the voucher was issued, and that date is listed on your voucher. It's important to note that if your voucher expires before you find suitable housing and turn your paperwork into the agency, you'll have to apply again and go back on the waiting list. The housing agency is not approving extensions at this time, So with that in mind, it's very important to be aware of when your voucher expires and to start your search for housing as soon as possible. It's up to you to decide where you want to live. You may look for a unit anywhere within Grand Forks County. Please note that units located in Minnesota or another county other than Grand Forks County would be ineligible for this voucher program. You can also continue to live within your current unit, but only as long as it qualifies under the program rules. However, if you currently live in a high poverty area, you may want to consider searching for a housing unit in another area of town. Your voucher makes it possible to look for housing in an area where you may not have looked for it before. Some of the advantages of moving to a lower poverty area could be better employment and educational opportunities, or being closer to community services. Choosing a neighborhood. In your search for suitable housing, you'll want to choose a place that meets your family's needs. First, consider the neighborhood and the unit. Is it safe for your children? Is the area well kept and clean? Which schools might your children attend? How close is the nearest grocery store or gas station? Is the unit close to your work or daycare? Is there public transportation nearby? In your briefing packet, you should find a list of property owners that may have available units. Keep in mind that you are not limited to just this list. You may also want to use the internet, the newspaper, or apartment guides. As you search for a unit, keep in mind that the unit will have to pass inspection. That said, the condition of the unit you choose is important. The HUD brochure included in your briefing packet describes how to choose a unit that will pass inspection. There is also a lead-based paint brochure in your packet that you should review. You may have to look at several units before you find one that can qualify for the program. Also, when you meet with a landlord to look at a unit, you may want to ask these questions. What is the landlord's maintenance policy? Will you be allowed to have pets? How much is the security deposit? Are there any utilities included in the rent? Who supplies the stove and refrigerator? Most landlords will have you complete an application and check your credit and references along with your rental history. Your briefing packet contains a statement on the housing agency's policy regarding providing information to prospective landlords. If the landlord is not familiar with the voucher program, let him or her know that they can contact the housing agency. An agency representative will be able to explain to your landlord how the program works. Request for tenancy approval. When you choose the unit you want, you must provide the landlord with the request for tenancy approval form, which is provided in your packet. Remember, your leasing documents must be received by the housing agency before your voucher expires. It's very important to make sure that you do not sign a lease before you've submitted your paperwork to the agency. You are strongly advised not to sign a lease until the unit passes inspection and is approved for the program. Otherwise, it cannot be guaranteed that you will receive housing assistance. Inspecting the unit. The housing agency receives your request for tenancy approval, schedule an inspection. The person working with you at the housing agency can advise you on how the inspections are scheduled. It is a good idea to be present during the inspection of the unit so that you can be aware of any repairs that may need to be made. If the unit doesn't pass inspection, the landlord can be given time to make the repairs, and the unit can be re-inspected once those repairs are completed. In addition to passing the inspection, the housing agency must also make sure that the rent the landlord is charging is reasonable. The agency does this by comparing the unit rent to other units in the area which aren't currently under the voucher program. Signing the lease. If the unit is approved by the housing agency, you will sign a lease with the landlord. After the lease is signed, the landlord will sign a contract with the housing agency. The housing agency will make housing assistance payments to the landlord each month. The amount of rent that you pay per month is based on a percentage of your income and the rent for the unit which you choose. And that failure to pay your share of the rent may result in eviction by the landlord and a loss of your housing assistance. Payment standard. While the amount of your payment standard will be written and circled on your voucher, it's very important that you understand how the payment standard works. A copy of the payment standard schedule within your briefing packet is broken down by bedroom size. listed on your voucher will match the bedroom size of your unit. This is the maximum that your housing agency will pay for rent and utilities. The agency wants you to find a unit that is affordable to you. If you choose a unit where the rent and utilities are below the payment standard, your share of the rent will generally be 30% of your monthly income. If rent and utilities are above the payment standard, your share of the rent will be more than 30% of your monthly income. Keep in mind that HUD does not allow a family to pay more than 40% of their monthly income towards rent and utilities. If a unit would require you to pay more than 40% of your monthly income, then it would not be considered affordable to you. If the unit is not affordable to you, then the housing agency cannot approve the unit, unless the landlord agrees to lower the rent. Your housing agency can provide you with more information about this affordability limit. In your briefing packet, there's also information about how your rent is calculated. Your housing agency will notify both you and the landlord when the amount of housing assistance and the amount you pay for the rent have been calculated. Annual re-examination. While you are on the program, you will have to comply with the landlord's lease, the family obligations on the voucher, and the housing agency's policies and procedures. The housing agency will contact you to set up an annual re-examination according to their schedule. They will re-verify your income and confirm who is living in the unit. If your income is changed, your rent will be adjusted. About 3 to 4 months prior to your re-examination, you will receive a written notice from the housing agency. When the re-examination is conducted, it is important that you provide complete and accurate information regarding your income and who is living within your household. The housing agency will verify all of the information that you provide. The information that you provide during your re-examination will be compared to a national database of employment and Social Security records to ensure that the information you provide is accurate and fully up to date. Please note that providing false or inaccurate information may cause you to lose your voucher assistance. If the housing agency completes your re-examination, they will determine your rent payment for the upcoming period through the date of your next examination. You and your landlord will be notified in writing before any changes to your rent payment or the housing agency's payment to the landlord go into effect. You are also required to allow the housing agency to conduct a full inspection of your unit biannually, or once every 2 years. The agency conducts this inspection to make sure that your unit is in decent, safe, and sanitary condition. Not be there for the inspection, you want to make sure that an adult is there to allow the inspector to enter the unit. It's required for everyone on the voucher program. Reporting changes. If a family member moves out of the unit, you must report it to the housing agency right away. Also, if you are considering having somebody move into your unit, you must first let the housing agency know because all household members must be approved before they're able to live within the unit. Be sure to understand your housing agency's procedure for approval of additional household members. You can lose your assistance if you move someone in without approval. To be safe, ask your housing agency about the maximum amount of time that you're able to have guests stay in the unit. Changes in your rent and lease. If the amount of your rent changes because of a change in your income, both you and the landlord will receive written notice about the change in your rent amount and the date that it goes into effect. The landlord may not change the amount of your rent during the first year of your lease. However, after the first year, a landlord may submit a request for rent increase to your housing agency. All landlord rent increases must be approved by the housing agency before they go into effect. If the landlord asks you to agree to any changes in your lease, please contact the housing agency to find out what to do. If you decide that you would like to move to another unit and would like to continue receiving housing assistance, you must give the landlord proper written notice according to the terms of your lease. The time period is usually 30 days, but you'll want to check your lease to be certain. You are also required to give a copy of the written notice to your housing agency. Your housing agency representative can provide you with more information regarding their policies on moving to a new unit. Portability. If you are thinking about moving outside of Grand Forks County, get in touch with your housing agency representative. This is called portability. Portability allows a family to move to a new area and still continue to receive housing voucher assistance. In your briefing packet, you will find more information about how portability works. Family obligations. At the end of this briefing, you will be asked to sign your voucher. By doing so, you acknowledge your responsibilities and obligations while participating in the program. These family obligations are listed on your voucher, and they apply to all families on the program. There are two types of family obligations. Type of family obligations are things that you must do in order to keep your voucher program assistance. Those are: tell the truth about who will be living in the unit and the amount of household income, provide proof of Social Security numbers and citizenship status, provide any documents your housing agency asks for, such as birth certificates or photo IDs, inform your agency if somebody moves out of the unit and contact them for approval before anyone new moves into the unit. Sign any consent or release forms that are needed to verify eligibility. Take care of the unit and don't damage it beyond normal wear and tear. Allow the housing agency to inspect the unit at reasonable times and after reasonable notice. Once you're in the program, the unit must be your family's only place of residence. Notify the landlord and housing agency before moving out of the unit. Provide the housing agency with any landlord eviction notice. And never leave out any information which could have an effect on the rent amount that you pay. Type of family obligations are things that you must not do. You must not seriously or repeatedly violate the lease. Do not sublet or transfer the lease. Do not use illegal drugs or be involved in illegal drug activity. Do not commit violent criminal acts. And do not abuse alcohol in a way that threatens the health, safety, or right to peaceful enjoyment of the premises by other residents. It's important that you and your family understand and honor the family obligations on your voucher. If you fail to do so, your assistance may be terminated and you may not be eligible for future assistance. Housing assistance is a privilege and should not be abused. If you're not sure about the full rules and procedures, contact your housing agency to get the correct information. Nobody should be evicted or lose their assistance unnecessarily. As previously mentioned, the program rules and your family obligations are all included in your briefing packet. Keep all of the provided information in a safe place along with your lease so that you can refer to them in the future. Non-discrimination laws. In your dealings with the housing agency and with landlords, be aware of your rights under federal non-discrimination laws. These laws prohibit you from being treated differently because of your age, religion, gender, disability, color, race, national origin, or because you have children. HUD housing programs are also available to all eligible families regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or marital status. Women Act. Women Act, or VAWA, offers protection to you regardless of your gender. You against losing your housing due to domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking. If you have been denied your housing rights due to unlawful discrimination, you can get help in resolving the issue by filing a complaint. You can do this through your housing agency, HUD, or any state or local agency that specializes in fair housing laws. About filing a complaint within your briefing packet. Housing agency if you have any questions about this process. Voucher program. And cooperation are the two key ingredients to success in the voucher program. What you've received today will help you succeed at choosing safe, decent housing in the community that is best for your family. You're about to become one of the more than 1 million families that have been served by the Housing Choice Voucher program. Program rules: you will be able to increase your housing choices at a price that you can afford. Choose the neighborhood that you want to live in and the type of housing that's best for your family with the features that are most important to you. Thank you for being a participant in the Housing Choice Voucher program.